Today's movie has it all. Romance, philosophical musings, and, oh yeah, zombies. Welcome to Sick Flicks, where I take a deep dive into the cinematic sewer to help you embrace your inner gore geek. I'm Mike Bracken, aka The Horror Geek, and today we're tackling Michele Soavi's unforgettable zombie film, Cemetery Man. Released in 1994, Cemetery Man was essentially the last hurrah for Italian horror cinema. The golden era of the 70s and 80s had run its course, and Italian filmmakers were forced into television or other genres. Soavi, who some of us viewed as the heir apparent to legends like Argento and Mario Bava, was still able to get funding for this adaptation. Cemetery Man was inspired by two works from writer Tiziano Sclavi. The obvious is his novel Dellamorte Dellamore, which was retitled as Cemetery Man Abroad. The film was also loosely inspired by Sclavi's Dylan Dog comic book. Dylan Dog, as you may recall, got a feature film of its own back in 2011. In a wild bit of synergy, Dylan Dog's appearance in the comics was inspired by Rupert Everett, and Everett would play the lead character in Cemetery Man. Unfortunately, this wildly entertaining philosophical film about love, death, and zombies ended Soavi's horror career. He went on a sabbatical to care for his sick child and has since worked in television and other genres. He did promise us a sequel back in 2011, but nothing ever came of it. I'm still holding out hope, though, because this is essentially my favorite zombie film of all time, sitting right alongside Dawn of the Dead. It's an amazing little film. But enough about that. Can Cemetery Man deliver 5 barf bags of splatter? Let's get to the gore and find out. Oh, and before we get started, today's video is sponsored by patrons Michael V, Brian Rosenthal, and Jonan the Destroyer. God, that's a great name. If you'd like to help sponsor some videos and free me from YouTube's content tyranny, you'll find a link to my Patreon in the pinned comment and description below. And now, let's get bloody. We open on The Goonies? I don't think that's Sean Astin. Turns out this is Francesco, the boss at the Buffalo Cemetery. And not only does he have a phone call, but there's someone at the door too. Good news is his Avon rep is here. Bad news is he's dead. And this is basically how we treat all door-to-door salesmen here in Florida. As an added bonus, we get the film's thesis statement.
Life goes on.
As the credits continue, we're treated to a shot of this awesome snow globe that you should definitely keep in the back of your mind. Special effects by the legendary Sergio Stivaletti. He created some great zombies in this one. Remind me to think of this scene the next time I feel like whining about taking the trash out. Thank God Francesco lives in a cemetery. Body disposal is a whole lot easier. So, hey, when is Julia Roberts gonna show up? I don't know about you guys, but I'm really digging this scene. They keep working, but it turns out they're not alone. These are some grave developments. And Francesco is unprepared.
The gun! Forgot the fucking gun!
Zombie killing Boy Scout badge for you. Fortunately, he's a jack of all spades. Say what you will, but when push comes to shovel, Francesco is not taking any shit. With Nagi dealing with the corpse, we've got time for drinks and exposition.
My name is Francesco Dellamorte, Saint Francis of Death.
Turns out the dead come back 7 days after being buried, and Francesco puts them back in their grave. Not gonna lie, that's some pretty good job security. The next day, everything seems back to normal.
I'm not an engineer. And you're no cutie.
I don't know, he's definitely adorable in a Curly from the Three Stooges sort of way. Then we learn more about Nagi.
He has a real passion for dead leaves. Can't stand it when the wind blows them away.
This typical day is interrupted when Falchi shows up. Looks like this guy's getting let down one last time. Needless to say, Francesco is pretty smitten with her. How smitten? The next day he makes his move.
How long has he been dead?
2 weeks.
Thank goodness.
What?
Yeah, he's definitely got away with the ladies. The following day he heads to town to check out the script. I'm the handsome leading man in this movie, right? She should be totally into me according to this. To be honest, I'd probably rather kill and rebury the dead than work in an office like this. Back at the cemetery, Nagi is headlining an Italian knockoff version of Troy McClure's Dig Your Own Grave and Save. And don't look now, but Falchi's back.
Anyway, we all end up here sooner or later, don't we? I've got a great little house. Want to see it?
Man, that must be like strike 5 for him at this point. I think he just needs to nagger more and work on his peacocking.
I don't live alone, I've got a helper, Nagi. He's a real conversationalist.
He does finally win her over when he offers to show her his bone.
Hell yeah.
No, not like that, you pervs. He's gonna take her to the ossuary.
The cemetery's small, but it's got a marvelous ossuary.
Yeah, this looks totally romantic. I'm pretty sure they shot a Sisters of Mercy video down here.
You know, You've got a real nice ossuary.
Yeah, that's what all the ladies tell me. And this is how we'll all have to kiss in a couple of years at this rate. Francesco is as puzzled as we are by the sudden invasion of flaming marshmallows, which lead him to a half-dressed Anna Falchi. Man, it's like Rupert's restrained British movie keeps getting invaded by a sexy Italian movie. And now it's a Susie and the Banshees video. You gotta admire Francesco's determination. A lot of swings and misses, but he finally made it to first base. The dead ain't the only thing rising out here. Turns out they're making out on her dead husband's grave. I'm sure he's cool with that. Meanwhile, Nagi's carb loading like a power lifter. While Francesco's busy exploring her crypt, we check in 6 feet underground to make sure her hubby's still dead. And of course he isn't, especially with all the moaning going on topside. Hey, could you keep it down? Trying to take a dirt nap down here. Apparently her old man studied the bride's 1-inch punch because he's already back above ground, and he's not happy. Just like Def Leppard said, love bites. After that attack, you could say Francesco's feeling pretty cross. Anna dies, and Francesco's left to wonder if this is a good time to crack open a cold one. This bird, meanwhile, is clearly a huge fan of Soavi's other masterpiece, Stage Fright. The next day, this inspector shows up.
Oh, jeez, scared me to death.
And we get an official cause of death.
Her heart stopped from fear. It wasn't the bite that killed her.
Yes, you could say she went out with a bang.
You are no longer a suspect.
Why not?
Don't make me say it.
Go on, you can say it. I don't mind. I'm impotent.
Well, sure, a run in the cemetery is important. Oh wait, he said impotent. Since we've got time to kill before she comes back, Francesco gives us some exposition.
I haven't read more than 2 books in my whole life. One, never finished, and the other's a phone book.
After some time passes, Anna wakes up, but it must have taken way longer than 7 days based on this Francesco skeleton. Oh wait, Francesco's fine. And like any good undertaker, he makes sure she's extra dead. With another body to deal with, you could say he's really buried in his work. Later, he heads back to town. And you can tell this movie is a total fairy tale. Rupert Everett not only can't attract a woman, but he gets hazed by the locals like he's a dork. He's clearly a VIP, though. He's having lunch with the mayor. While he's busy hobnobbing with the rich and powerful, Nagi takes a moment to make a little love connection of his own.
He's sweet. Will you buy him, Daddy?
Italian mating customs are strange, but I'm not here to judge.
What's he doing? Dancing?
No, he's just about to,
Nagi flees in embarrassment, but Francesco is gonna bug him about a ride home. Meanwhile, Nagi's new dream girl is in this live-action version of Road Rash and gets busted. This probably gives him a better chance with her, if we're being honest. And Mr. Ed here is devastated by this accident. And now, with a busload of people dead thanks to Nagi's new girlfriend, Francesco is going to have a lot of work to do to keep the town safe. You could say he's really got his work lined up. It was nice of the mayor to put his daughter in a glass coffin, though. Will glass coffins ever become the norm? Remains to be seen. After a hard day of grave digging, Francesco relaxes with a shower. Too bad he's interrupted by the undead. It's curtains for this zombie. Shower curtains, that is. When did this turn into Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse? And downstairs, Nagi gets a visit from this extra from Fulci's Demonia. They head back to the graveyard, and now they've got to chase away this Grateful Dead groupie.
Hey, visiting hours are over.
Then Ghost Rider pops out of the grave. No idea this was part of the MCU. Sergio Stivaletti definitely earned his paycheck with these zombie designs. This gives a whole new meaning to Evil Knievel. When did this turn into Erotic Nights of the Living Dead?
No, please don't. He's only eating me.
The next morning, Nagi's waiting for his dream girl to come back from the dead. But he's impatient, so he digs her up himself. Ooh, she's a dirty girl. And she's really lost her head over him. Don't believe me? Take her word for it.
But I like shy boys. And you never say no to a kiss. I'm certainly in no position to refuse. I don't think I'd refuse anyway.
That night, Francesco's on patrol. Oh man, a full moon. Now he's gonna have to deal with werewolves and zombies all at once. Oh, never mind. It's just Anna Falchi doing her best Begotten cosplay. I will say it's weird that Francesco suddenly has ethical concerns about zombie-human love, though. Turns out this is one of those rare instances where there's a gun in his pants and he's happy to see her. I think this is a lot more teeth than most guys are comfortable with. Nagi then shows up with the C block to end all C blocks. And if you're thinking this means Francesco's about to become a zombie, you're wrong. I'll let him explain.
The first time when her husband bit her, she wasn't really dead. When she woke up and I shot her, she was alive.
But it turns out Nagi didn't read this part of the script.
Dead, you idiot. Bite can't kill you.
At work the next day, tragedy is narrowly averted.
That is my favorite reading. Nagi, Just because we've got the new ones doesn't mean to say we have to throw the old ones away. These books are classics!
And now, the final act of A Christmas Carol shows up to freak everybody out. I absolutely love the death puppet. I mean, I love pretty much everything about Cemetery Man, but this giant puppet is just super cool. And you'd think living in a cemetery would be quiet, but Francesco's neighbors are constantly at the door. With nothing better to do, Francesco calls in the love line for advice on how to hook up with Anna Falchi. And he drops another clue about the film's thesis.
Who knows if the rest of the world even exists?
This movie is way too smart for this show. And now he's out here running around like he's the son of Sam. Naturally, the cop from earlier shows up at his place with questions.
Where were you between 11 and 12:30 last night?
Is this it for Francesco? No, because the cop suspects Nagi. This is like a season of Making a Murderer waiting to happen. Nagi is in his room watching TV. I've heard of talking head shows and videos, but this seems ridiculous. If he put her on top, she could have been on TV. And if that isn't bad enough, the mayor's here too. He wants to dig up his daughter as a campaign prop. I've got some grave concerns about this plot development.
What are you doing on TV?
I'm rotting fast, Daddy.
Damn, she's a regular Patty Hearst. Do you kids even remember Patty Hearst? Christ, I'm old. After more jibber-jabber, Valentine has had enough. She's feeling a little peckish. I like to think this is Soavi's homage to Zombie 3's refrigerator kill, but he did it better. Unfortunately, this touching moment ends with the death of Nagi's only shot at true love. Aw, poor Nagi.
He's dead.
And I feel like Columbo over here has roughly 0 solved cases. This guy makes Chief Wiggum look like Sherlock Holmes. And of course, the mayor isn't going to stay in his grave either.
You're supposed to be setting a good example. Now, will you get back to your coffin immediately?
You can't stop me.
The next morning, look who's back. It's Anna Falchi as a totally different character. And we get another live look at me answering the door. He brings her inside. Man, these two aren't wasting any time. But she's got some bad news for him.
You can't.
No. You don't want to believe town
Because
gossip.
I can only love an impotent man.
Since he needs to be impotent, he goes to see Dr. Todd. The reconstructive surgery after his face melted in Raiders of the Lost Ark is looking great. I will say one thing, running the cemetery must come with great benefits. I can't imagine getting my insurance to pay for an operation to make me impotent. You're just gonna feel a little pinch. Emphasis on little. He heads home to recover, and of course, Anna Falchi shows up.
I must talk to you.
No, Francesco, she said talk, not eat her face. The big news is that she's in love with the new mayor. So Francesco basically made himself impotent for nothing. I think we've all been there. That evening, Francesco is drowning his sorrows at the bar when this chick shows up. And look who's with her. Apparently, Anna Falchi's grow on trees in this town. Falchi's characters don't have a name in the film. It's just listed as she in the credits. Maybe it was supposed to be Cher and they just typoed it. Wouldn't be the first Italian movie to do that. After doing the deed, he gets hit with a bill.
Did Laura tell you you can pay me?
Turns out this Anna Falchi is working her way through college. And the rest of the town too, apparently. Don't worry though, Francesco totally takes this in stride by lighting her on fire. This seems like a reasonable response, right? At any rate, I don't think this is what they meant when they said Anna Falchi was hot. Damn, they must wash their clothes with gasoline in that apartment. It's gone up instantly.
This time I'm really through with love.
And Italian Chief Wiggum comes back. Not to arrest Francesco, but to tell him they caught the real killer.
But this could be proof against...
Proof against whom? We've already arrested the guilty party.
Francesco then heads to the hospital to find the killer. And if you guessed it was his friend from the town office, give yourself a screenwriter's credit. You'd think Francesco would be happy about this turn of events, but he's not.
What are you doing stealing my murders?
And to prove it, he kills a nun, a doctor, and a nurse. I don't know if I've seen this many people murdered in a hospital since Halloween 2.
Go away!
Oh, it's like a Suspiria homage, which is okay because Soavi worked extensively with Argento. And Italian Chief Wiggum is still clueless.
There's another maniac on the loose. He's on the 4th floor killing people.
I'll tell you this will all make sense later, but the beauty of Cemetery Man is that it's very open to interpretation. This is basically me at about 10 p.m. every Halloween, drunk and just randomly shooting at things. With nothing left to live for, Francesco decides it's a good time for a road trip. And since there's some time to kill, we're gonna watch him tune up his car before we go. They're on the path to a new beginning, and then this happens. I don't know how he saw it coming, but Francesco has found the end of this movie's plot. From this point on, I guess it's all bent rebar. And he's just driven into one of the greatest existential endings in cinema history.
I should have known it. The rest of the world doesn't exist.
But before we can ponder what it all means, Nagi passes away. Except he's not really dead, and suddenly it's snowing. And not only is he not dead, but now he can talk and Francesco can't.
Could you take me home? Please.
And cut to the snow globe. Wait, did they just steal the ending of St. Elsewhere? And that, my friends, is Cemetery Man. Soavi's film is arguably the last great Italian horror film of the golden era and the best film of his career. The heady mixture of comedy, philosophy, and gore makes this one of my favorite zombie films of all time. It's right up there with Romero's best work. The ending is one that has lingered with me for years. What does it all mean? I think it's all very open to interpretation, but that's part of what makes Cemetery Man so charming and unforgettable. But enough about that. This is Sick Flicks, not Deep Thoughts. Can Soavi deliver enough zombies to earn a coveted 5 barf bag rating? Let's go to the gore card. In terms of gross anatomy, and just regular anatomy, Cemetery Man delivers. We're treated to head splitting, neck biting, gun blasting, and a beheading. Sergio Stivaletti's FX work is gorgeous. It's not wall-to-wall carnage, but there's more than enough gore here to give Cemetery Man a respectable 3 barf bag rating. This one's a sick and smart flick. Looking for another Michele Soavi classic? Then be sure to check out my review of Stage Fright. You'll find a link here on the screen. I'll meet you over there. Until next time, I'm Mike Bracken, aka The Horror Geek, bringing you all the splatter that matters.